The May canola contract is down 60 cents at $824.70 per ton, and the July contract sheds 80 cents at $820 per ton. Upticks in European rapeseed and Malaysian palm oil are providing support for canola, as are gains in Chicago soybeans and soy meal. However, growing losses in soy oil are weighing on canola values. Also, global crude oil prices are slipping back, putting pressure on vegetable oils. The Canadian Grain Commission reports a drop of almost 30% in producer deliveries of canola for the week ending February 26th at nearly 294,000 tons. Canola exports bump up 2% on the week at approximately 195,000 tons. Domestic usage rises 10% at 198,000 tons. The Canadian dollar is slightly lower, with the loonie at 73.32 U.S. cents compared to Thursday's close of 73.45. Ahead of next week's supply and demand report from the United States Department of Agriculture, the department's attaché in Brazil estimates that country's 2022-23 soybean crop at 153 million tons. As AgroConsult agrees with the attaché's assessment, DataGrow pegs the Brazil soybean harvest at 150.8 million tons. As for Brazil's 2022-23 corn production, AgroConsult estimates the second crop to be 99.1 million tons, while DataGrow pegs it at 102.9 million. France's soft wheat crop gains 2 points at 95% good to excellent despite dry conditions in the country. Rounding off prices at the Chicago Board of Trade, soybean futures are higher on Friday morning. The May contract gains 5.5 cents at $15.15 per bushel. May soy oil loses almost 3/4 of a cent at 61.16 U.S. cents per pound. May soy meal advances $6.50 at $478.80 per short ton. Corn futures are higher, with the May contract up 4 cents at $6.38 per bushel. Oats are slightly lower, with its May contract down 2 cents at $3.31. The U.S. wheat complex is down slightly as Chicago May loses 2 cents at $7.10.5. Kansas City May is down 1.5 cents at $8.24.5. And Minneapolis May dips 1/4 cent at $8.76. That's a look at the ICE futures and the Chicago markets for Friday morning, March 3rd. For MarketsFarm.com in Winnipeg, I'm Glenn Halleck.
See more and do more in a new 300 series compact track loader from New Holland. Its industry-leading 360-degree visibility is truly something to see at Butler Farm Equipment. With its reverse camera and 8-inch multifunction LCD display, super boom lift technology, rock-solid stability, and redesigned controls, you'll work with greater speed, safety, and precision. Maximum productivity starts with a clear view. Stop by Butler Farm Equipment in Fort St. John today and see how a new 300 series compact track loader helps you do more.
The opinions expressed during this show do not represent those of this station. If you've missed any of this show, you can follow the podcast at Energeticcity.ca. Now, an in-depth look at the news and information shaping our community. This is Moose Talks with your host, Doug Craig, on Moose FM.
Good morning. Welcome to the program. A little later on, we're going to check in with Spencer Hall from Energeticcity.ca, all about his latest Energeticcity.ca Investigates article about the experience of black people in Fort St. John and the North Peace. But first, Canfor announced earlier this week that they, quote, don't see a path forward, end quote, for the Taylor Pulp Mill. This, of course, coming after the announced shutdowns in Chetwynd and Prince George and other places. So to talk about what that means for the community, we're joined now by the District of Taylor Mayor, Brent Taillefer. Brent, welcome back to Moose Talks and being here live in studio. Welcome.
Thanks, Dub. I'm happy to be here. Not so happy to be here with the news that we have today and what we're going to talk about, but it is good to be on the show, and thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. So let's talk about kind of your initial reaction to this announcement. I think you said kind of before the show you had an inkling that this was going to happen kind of before everyone else, eh?
Right. So we've seen curtailment on and off over the last few years, and this last curtailment seemed to be pushing on a little longer. Of course, we had continued talks with Canfor. They really were trying to find a way to make it work with the lack of fiber, the lack of demand, the loss of money that they've been experiencing, and they've reported out from 2022. Again, as I said, they didn't see a path forward. We suspected that may be the case with the length of the curtailment. Some of the things that they were doing there would indicate that they were preparing for a longer shutdown. So we did have an idea, and of course they did reach out to us before making the public statement that they were closing.
I guess with the kind of announcement, I guess it was last month at this point now, of the kind of widespread, the shutdown of the Chetwynd Mill, for example. When that happened, and I think we asked them, or somebody asked them specifically, like, what about Fort St. John? What about Taylor? And they said, nothing's changing there for now. I mean, how concerned at the time were you that this was just, again, sort of a matter of time, that this would be news that's forthcoming?
Of course, very concerned.
Yeah.
Right. It's a tough industry, the forestry industry. When you see that they're losing money, when you're seeing that they're having problem getting wood and fiber, for the pulp mill specifically, but for all of their industries, and they're a business, so they need to make decisions that make sense for their business. Unfortunately, some of those decisions impact communities like Taylor, Chetwynd. Mackenzie is a forestry town as well, and we regularly speak with the mayor there, and it's such a hard hit to small communities when big industry closes the doors.
Yeah. Now, I think the wording of this one was interesting, because they didn't just come outright and say, we're done, and here's the timeline. It's, we don't see a path forward. We're thinking about alternative uses for the site, I think was it. What do you think that means, and have they given you an indication of how that means perhaps something different than we're moving out essentially in 3 months?
Well, I'm very interested on that myself, Dub. They never gave us any information, but this is a heavy industrial site that has access to rail and actually a large spur line into the site. There could be a multiple uses that could be there. Of course, we're, Fort St. John, the Peace region being the hub of the northern BC, there could be many things. Maybe they're working on something and they can't say. They certainly haven't told us, as they haven't told the public. But the site is a valuable site. So whether it's valuable still for pulp mill, or if they have something else in the works, I'm not sure. But we're hoping that they can find a use for it. They've, and I do want to say that Canfor Taylor Pulp has been a great community partner. They've always met with the council regularly. They've always been involved in the community. They've been a good neighbor. And we know that if there is a path forward, they will take it. And if there is another proponent or another use for it, the municipality and the council will look forward to working with whoever comes forward.
Did you have or are going to have any discussions with members of the provincial government, with Canfor itself, about what they can do to help you or to help them support the employees who are going to be affected by this?
Right. So Canfor themselves definitely has a program for their employees. I believe that when I hear them say that they are going to help their employees, whether it's with retraining or our direction on what they can do and how they can support them, I believe that they're doing that. I haven't talked to any of the employees personally that are left without a job, but we're certainly willing to step in where we need to if they need our assistance with that. We would, as a municipality, certainly do that.
Another thing I wanted to ask, because we were talking about this a bit before we kind of went on the air here too as well. This happened in Chetwynd, like I said, a couple weeks ago, and Chetwynd is kind of really majority of it is it's a lumber town. That's the big industry there. It's a little different for Taylor in this situation, even though you happen to both be kind of small towns, but you have kind of the gas plants there. There's lots of industry around that. Do you think that's going to mitigate the effects of this at all, or with the kind of this lumber industry possibly leaving town for good, is that going to affect people more than kind of it looks like, at least on paper, I suppose?
So I guess for the Taylor Canfor Pulp Mill, a majority of those employees were already
curtailed,
yeah. Right? They were already released from there. They've gone on to retrain or onto a new job already, or moved from the area.
Yeah.
And certainly the Chetwynd announcement was much different because it was just an announcement for shutdown.
Yeah.
Right? I guess we're fortunate in Taylor that we're so close to, other municipalities such as Fort St. John. And a lot of our workers there were residents of the region, not necessarily Taylor. Mm-hmm. As opposed to Chetwynd, who's a little further out, and you may have a harder time finding employment for that many people when it was that big of an industry in a small town like that.
Mm-hmm. And I just wondered, too, if you could touch on, how much you've heard from people who, have been affected by curtailments already, who are going to be affected in the future. Have people been reaching out and saying what they think and asking for help and all that kind of stuff?
I guess we haven't heard specifically for people asking for help. Mm-hmm. I will say that the municipality has hired some of the people that were working there. Mm-hmm. That's a benefit to us and certainly a benefit to employers around the region when you see the employment or the unemployment rate so low or not published in the region, and so many signs out there needing people. I'm sure there's been a benefit to some businesses with having people available to work. Mm-hmm. And again, it's very tough if you were in the industry for a long time. It's not like there's another pulp mill you can just go to work at. So you need to diversify, retrain, and change your life, and that is a hard thing to do for us.
Mm-hmm. So I guess my last question would be, do you know what kind of the next step is here? As we sort of touched on, is there going to be more contact with the government, the provincial government, I should say, and Canfor about what we do going forward? What does this mean? What could this mean if you're just going to shut down and we're kind of left with an empty mill, essentially?
Right. We're going to be keeping close contact with Canfor, mm-hmm. Certainly always with the province, and also with our community. So we will be starting, hopefully in the next few months, an official community plan. Mm-hmm. An official community plan gives the residents of Taylor the say in what happens in the community, the land use planning, and going forward, it's a long-term plan. So while it's a site owned and it's heavy industrial now, what is the future of that if there's not going to be a pulp mill or it's mm-hmm. not going to be used? Of course, no one in their community wants a building sitting for another 30 years with nothing happening, right? Mm-hmm. That's good land that has good use. It should be used. All right. So we will, as a community, continue to work toward that.
All right. Well, Mayor Taillefer, we really appreciate you taking a few minutes to come up the road to see us here at Moose Talks. Thanks so much for offering your thoughts on this and being here today.
Thank you, Dub.
You're very welcome. That's Taylor Mayor Brent Taillefer here on Moose Talks. We'll be right back to talk to Spencer Hall from the Energeticcity.ca newsroom right after this on Moose Talks.
Make something special, whether it's signs for the office, a gift for someone, or your own unique hoodie. Graphics Man makes it easy. Located at 10514 101 Avenue.
Let's make something special with the Graphics Man. You want something special? Call the Graphics Man.
Give Tyson a call at 250-793-6766.
In appreciation of those who seek to strengthen Aboriginal business relations in the Peace region, we're proud to inform you that Kean Coating and Sandblasting is Aboriginal owned and operated, with the most qualified team to serve you anytime, anywhere, from sandblasting to airlines, paints, and special coatings. We have 3 mobile blasters on call, state-of-the-art equipment, and environmentally friendly blasting media. We are ISN certified, Comply Work Safe, and WorkSafe BC Clean. For more information, please contact us at 250-262-4455 or visit us at 9905 85th Ave. Proudly here to serve you. Warriors to the end, we get the job done.
So many bottles.
Let's load them up and take them to the FSJ Return It for some cash.
We could just throw them out.
Or we can return them and get some cash for next week's party.
Look at you thinking smart.
When the party ends, gather up all those empty bottles and cans and bring them to FSJ Return It for a refund. Turn bottles and cans into cash at the FSJ Return It. Open Monday to Saturday from 9 to 5 on 93rd Avenue.
Yes, you could fulfill your dream of having a career with the railroad. If you have a high school diploma or equivalents, a safety mindset, and meet some other basic requirements, CN offers paid training to those hired. Enjoy a long-term career with an attractive salary and benefits package. We hire for the role of train conductor, mechanic, track worker, laborer, and more. For a rewarding career, visit cn.ca/careers to learn more. That's cn.ca/careers. Get your career moving. Join us.
Walking around with dry, itchy skin isn't cool, but Water's Mist Cream from Can Have Today can help relieve irritants such as eczema or dry skin itch. 100% Canadian, vegan, and natural, Water's Mist is a refreshing cream that'll cool irritating spots, delivering relief to your skin like a fresh Water's Mist while moisturizing and hydrating, which sounds awesome. What? Guys care about their skin too? To learn more about Water's Mist Cream or to check out all the other products available, visit canhavetoday.ca.
Are you ready to take your style to the next level? The Hairbin Salon and Spa has been voted #1 for a full decade, so you know they got you covered. Transform your look with the quality and expertise of their talented stylists. March is your lucky month. Get 10% off all retail purchases, and you'll feel like you won the lottery. Get the luxury you deserve and make a bold statement. Unleash your inner power with the help of the Hairbin Salon and Spa. Experience the transformation and start feeling like a brand new you.
Watch this show live on Facebook or download the podcast at Energeticcity.ca.
Welcome back. I'm Dub Craig. Now we're here to talk a bit about Black History Month and the effects it and why it's so important in a place like Fort St. John. So to talk about a wonderful Energeticcity.ca Investigates article they've written, we're joined now by the Energeticcity.ca investigative reporter, Spencer Hall. Welcome back to Moose Talks, Spencer.
Thank you. This is actually my first time on Moose Talks.
Oh, okay. I thought I had you on before. I apologize.
No, I mean, it's fine. I know where you live.
Yeah, so tell me all about this wonderful article you've written. Essentially, it seemed like you wanted to delve a bit into the Black experience and sort of history of Black people in Fort St. John in the North Peace, eh?
Absolutely, yeah. So, about 1/3 of the American troops that were sent here during World War II to build the Alaska Highway were African American, mostly from the South. Back in the day and to this day, Black people aren't generally treated very well. In the construction of the highway, they were given, inferior equipment. They were given the ones that were broken. If they even got heavy duty equipment, there was a misconception going around the U.S. Army at that time that Black individuals actually were incompetent in using that equipment, which is obviously not true.
Yeah.
And there is a story that they were tasked with building the original Sicanee Chief River Bridge. They said it was going to take about 6 days, and the regiment, which was the Black Regiment, said that we can build it in 3 days. We bet our paychecks, and they were actually able to build it within 3 days. And,
Unreal.
Heather Showbloom at the North Peace Museum told me that this incident was one of the or this event, I should say, was one of the events that actually led to the desegregation of the U.S. Army, because after that, they were able to build that bridge within that time. The colonel actually demanded that the white officers sit and eat with the black officers.
Wow.
Yep.
That's a very cool story, and that that happened right up the highway.
Yes, it did.
Essentially, so fascinating. You kind of brought it up already. Heather and the Fort St. John North Peace Museum sort of inspired you to write this, hey?
Yeah. So, I chat with Heather fairly frequently, and we always talk a little bit about the Alaska Highway. And then we kind of got talking, and I realized that, hey, it's February. It made me curious a little bit about, what's the experience like now? We have a growing a population of people with African descent. I'm curious, in 2023, after a pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement, like where are we at? What's it like for Black residents? And that was kind of the question that I wanted answered with this story.
Yeah. Now, as part of the article, there's a lot of very cool stuff in there. But I wanted to talk for a minute about Daniel Williams. This is a fascinating story. If you could tell that to us a bit briefly.
Yeah. So Daniel Williams was actually the first Black resident recorded in Fort St. John. He lived here. I think he immigrated here in the 1860s.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
He came here from Georgia, and he was known as a very proficient gardener, hunter, trapper. So he was actually trading furs quite a bit, and this actually led to him getting into a pretty serious kind of beef with the Hudson's Bay Trading Company, and he was charged with attempted murder. And he was tried in Edmonton. He was later acquitted, and then he moved back to Fort St. John to continue kind of living his life, trading furs. Unfortunately, he did get sick in the winter of 1888, and he unfortunately passed away within a matter of months in February of 1889.
Wow. And then, of course, we've talked a bit about the building of the Alaska Highway. We fast forward about 150 years or so to an NLC student who moved from Lagos, Nigeria, which is one of the largest cities and sort of metropolises in the world, to eventually settling in Fort St. John with some other stops on the way. I mean, that's quite the culture shock, I think they said to you, eh?
Absolutely, yeah. Her name's Aluchi. She's a really fantastic student I met at Northern Lights College, and she compared Lagos to like Las Vegas. Like it's the place to be. There's it's a very vibrant. It's got a vibrant marketplace. Like it's always awake. And then she has lived in Houston, Texas, and Dubai. So when she was sent photos, I guess, of Fort St. John by a friend who lived here. I'm not sure if he still does, but then she was like, "Oh, that's Canada," because I guess she kind of had it in her head that we're under snow all the time, and you could argue that we are, but no, she said there's it was a bumpy ride. She's like, but on the plus side, I've never lived anywhere that there's not traffic all the time. So she's living it and loving it here. So
Now I did want to touch on this because of course you did talk to some other people and lots about kind of statistics about the rise of racism recently, online racism, which is a huge problem that even the government is trying to get into a bit more. In general, kind of what have you heard from some of the people you talk to about the experiences, Black people and Black members of our community are having in Fort St. John, even now?
Absolutely. We were only able to really talk to a few residents. So, of course, this isn't like a universal view.
Sure.
I'm sure that there are other experiences out there. And we do encourage people with experiences to reach out and share it with us and all that. But, overall, no one has really experienced outright blatant hateful racism. There's been what they call microaggressions. So, for example, one went to go buy flooring for when she was renovating her basement, and she said that she had gone with her friend, who I assume was white, and the salesperson didn't look at her in the eye, and when she had a question, they would turn and explain it to the friend, to the point where even the friend afterwards was like, that made me very uncomfortable. So you see stuff like that, and the same person I spoke to is also a therapist and has had people come in and say, hey, I'm waiting for the therapist. And then when she says, I am the therapist, they say, don't you need a master's degree to be a therapist? And then she says, yes. And she actually got her master's degree from Trinity Western University in Langley. So, she's got a master's degree, she's qualified, but it's that thinking that, kind of needs to change.
Yeah.
Another one is, they reported seeing a lot more instances of just blatant racism in community focused online spaces. And we kind of saw this ourselves at Energetic City. We saw it when we posted an article that the city was looking for a BIPOC artist, and we actually received quite a few racist comments and actually some messages from people saying, hey, just so you know, like, this is happening in the comment section, please do something about it. So, we've seen that ourselves. We since deleted the comments, but it is something that's happening, and it is, again, like you kind of mentioned, something that people are trying to address, especially the provincial government.
Mm-hmm. And something we could all do to talk about a lot more, and articles like this, I think, help spread that awareness and help people to understand the situation a little better from the perspective of some of the other members of our community.
Mm-hmm.
So the good thing about this article is it's going to be available to you to read at noon today.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a supporter of Energeticcity.ca, you've already been able to have kind of a preview of it in its complete form, of course. But you can go check it out again at noon today over at Energeticcity.ca. Anything else you want to say, Spencer, before we wrap it up?
I do want to thank everybody who has become a supporter of Energeticcity.ca, especially the Investigates program. Like, we wouldn't be able to write the articles that we do without that support, and it's just incredible that we've had so many people sign up for the newsletter. But you miss a lot of stuff when you're not signed up to the newsletter, like early access to Energetic City Investigates and some other content as well. So I do just encourage people to subscribe to Energeticcity.ca. And also, there's many books on, the experience of people with African descent in our local library. I know that I read a few while writing this article, and it's just been fantastic. There's one specifically about oral history and culture just in British Columbia. So, these resources are here. They are at our local libraries, whether that be Northern Lights College's library or Fort St. John. So I do just recommend people to read up on that history, because it's not, like you mentioned, something that we've talked about. And I think it's important for every Canadian to know the experience of, people who also live in our country. And they're just as a big part of our country as we are.
Absolutely. Well, Spencer, thank you so much for stopping by to tell me all about this today. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me. It was a lovely schlep from my office, but it's a good time.
Absolutely. That's Spencer Hall, the Energeticcity.ca investigative journalist. We'll be right back to wrap things up on Moose Talks right after this.
Tonight is the CDC's 50th Talent Show. The CDC is looking to raise the roof this year, with all proceeds going to fixing a leak in the building. Catch the live broadcast at Energeticcity.ca/live tonight at 6 p.m.
Shorts, skirts, capris, dresses. Warm weather is closer than you think. Are your legs ready?
Please no, not ready.
If you're like most of us, probably not. But you can start getting your legs summer ready with laser hair removal from Zen Den Laser. I mean, who needs a razor when you've got laser? Zen Den also does skin tightening, cellulite reduction, anti-aging treatments, tattoo removal, acne treatments, and more. Zen Den Laser, love the skin you're in. Old Hope Road in Charlie Lake on Facebook and at zendenlaser.com.
Driving Force is your go-to transportation solution. Looking for site-ready work trucks in a moment's notice? They have it. Discover the advantages of short and long-term renting with Driving Force. Visit drivingforce.ca. Driving Force. Now you're getting somewhere.
Moose Country weather.
In your Moose FM weather, a mainly sunny day ahead of us with a high of -2. It'll feel more like -7 this afternoon with a wind chill. Tonight, increasing cloudiness and a good chance of some flurries overnight tonight. A low of -13 with a wind chill of -22. For tomorrow, mainly cloudy, a good chance of flurries at least in the morning. A temperature steady near -12 with a wind chill of -22. And on Sunday, a cloudy day with a high of -16.
Our community first. This is Moose Talks with Dub Craig on Moose FM.
Our thanks to our guests Brent Taillefer and Spencer Hall for joining us today. Now make sure you check out Energeticcity.ca for all your local news needs, including Energeticcity.ca Investigates. It's long-form investigative reporting on local matters available to you before anyone else if you become a supporter. With a one-time or monthly contribution, you'll help us continue to cover all the local stories that matter to you from journalists who live and work right here in Fort St. John and the North Peace. You can click the support button today over at Energeticcity.ca to support us and for more information. Well, that's the show for this day, March 3rd. Trey Lopashinsky and Jordan Prentice are the producers of Moose Talks. I'm Dub Craig. Be well.
Join us next Friday at 10 a.m. for another episode of Moose Talks, a weekly talk show about Fort St. John and the North Peak.